Today's video is a difficult one for me to make. I'm not a theologian. I am a Christian that loves Jesus Christ, and I'm fairly new to the faith, right? I only came to faith about a year and a half, just over a year and a half ago. So for me, I'm learning, and there's a lot that I'm still learning, and this video requires so much theological expertise that I just don't yet have. But we have to talk about the Christians in Nigeria. And the fact that our government, the ANC, has been so dead quiet. This is the same government that has spent the last 2 years angering our allies in America, basically spitting in the face of America by taking Israel to the International Court of Justice, by grandstanding and taking massive amounts of money from Iran, all in the name of being the superpower or the moral superpower of the world. We will not stand by and watch people being genocided, except, of course, when those people are Christian, in which case the entire world is silent. For 2 years, we have watched leader after leader throughout the world throw their lot in with the Palestinians, willing to go to war with Donald Trump and Israel if Israel doesn't stop but with their response to October the 7th. And now that a literal genocide is happening in Nigeria, Christians are being killed by the hundreds of thousands. I only found out about this about a year ago, actually maybe less than a year. They'd say 8 or 9 months ago. Late last year, I think it was November or December, we had missionaries who sort of told us what is actually happening in Nigeria and how dangerous it is to be a Christian in Nigeria. How you're being persecuted constantly, how churches are being burnt down, how families or churches are being watched. In fact, the Christians in Nigeria have completely abandoned traditional church buildings because those churches would be watched. They will make notes of every single person that enters into that church, and then they would slaughter the man or the woman in front of the whole family as a way to say, stop with your Christianity and convert. So they won't wipe out the entire family, but they'll kill someone in the family in front of the family to make sure that the family understands it is Islam and Islam alone. The interesting thing, Nigeria has a 50-50 split between Muslims and Christians, but the Nigerian government has largely pretended like it is not happening. The BBC, for example, after Trump was the first president in the world to say, hold on, what the hell is happening in Nigeria, right? The BBC is saying, no, there's no such thing. The Nigerian government completely rejects the idea that there is a genocide of Christians in their own nation. Al Jazeera quotes the Nigerian government saying the exact same thing. Trump is lying. Bill Maher is lying. There is no actual death of Christians in Nigeria, except Genocide Watch, an organization that does exactly this. Right? It's all they do is watch different countries and watch the persecution of religious groups. Genocide Watch have found that Christians are being persecuted, and in fact, they're finally happy that the world is starting to take notice. Now, you might be saying to yourself, but hold on, Stefan, like, clearly, this is one country where Christians are being persecuted, but in all other countries, it's all sorts of other minorities. It's all sort of other religions. So Islam, for example, is persecuted throughout the world or whatnot. Here's an actual Pew poll. Now, Pew is as left as it gets, right? So Pew has no religious affiliation. They're not a Christian polling center. In fact, they find so many more left-wing biases than what they find right-wing biases that if ever there was a poll that I would trust on who is being persecuted, it would be the Pew poll, because they would have every reason not to admit that Christians are the most persecuted people in the world. No matter which country you go to, you will find some form of religious persecution of Christians, either being purported by the state or by people inside the state. So clearly, the argument here that, oh, but it's just in one country, you look at all of the other countries, I want to ask the question, why was the ANC so vocal on what is happening in Palestine, a conflict that has a lot of nuance to it? And it's very difficult to really understand what is happening in that conflict, and yet the ANC has made no peep of what is happening in Nigeria. The answer? Simple. Communists and socialists and would-be dictatorships hate Christianity. See, the difference between Christianity and every other faith on earth is that Christianity doesn't leave a lot of room for moral grandstanding. But then I'm not saying that there aren't Christians who morally grandstand. There are. But the faith in general, when it's practiced truly, does not allow for it. You see, because I know that nothing I do is good. I am no better than any other person on this earth. And in fact, the only thing that can save me is Jesus Christ, because, well, he's holy and he paid the price for my sins. If it was up to me, there is nothing I could offer God that would be good enough for me to go to heaven. Christianity further offers an explanation of value that no other religious group or grouping or even atheistic move allows for. Because I am made in the image of God, I have inherent value. My value is the same as yours because we are all created equal in the image of God. This is a problem for dictatorships, socialists, and communists because they need to be able to morally grandstand. They need to be able to say that my views are so much better than your views, and therefore I am allowed to enforce my views upon you, even if you don't agree. And if I have to do so violently, then so be it. This is why both Soviet Russia and Mao's China killed millions of their own people violently. We're not even talking about the people who were murdered with famine and with just bad government decisions. We're talking about the people who were killed outright by Mao's China and the Soviet Union because they dissented. They didn't follow the party line, so to speak. And it was justified because the state is the highest authority. Nothing can be higher than the state. For Islam and these dictatorships, that works great because Islam is as much a religion as it is a political system. And in the Islamic political system, the state is the highest authority installed by Allah himself. And therefore, the state has the right to take an iron grip of the people and slaughter with impunity the enemies of the state. So the ANC, accepting millions, in fact, probably billions of rands from the Iranian government, has run this campaign on behalf of Iran. Taking money and accepting that amount of money comes with strings. What the ANC doesn't seem to understand, and they need to only look at Iran's own history to know, the Islamists only use the communists and the socialists until power is assured. Once that power is assured, it is the communists and the socialists who die first. This is exactly what happened in Iran when the king of Iran was deposed by the Muslim groups within it, as well as the communist groups. And once the Muslims and the communists came to power, the communists wanted to govern with the Muslims. The Muslims had other ideas. Now, am I saying by this that all Muslims everywhere are fundamentalist sort of nutheads? No. You get a number of really chill, secular, or more moderate Muslims. The issue with Islam is anyone that has a fundamentalist reading of the Quran will arrive at the exact same perspective. It is incumbent upon Islamic believers to slaughter non-believers. The Quran makes this very clear. You are not allowed to suffer an infidel in your territory. They must be made to submit. Now, in Islam, this can look like a special kind of tax that you pay to the government. That is your submission, since Islam means to submit. They view that as perfectly fine. But even in countries where that tax is allowed and where that tax is paid, it goes through cycles. Eventually, someone more extreme comes in and then they slaughter a bunch of Christians to basically kill the religion, and then the religion grows a little, they make them to submit with the special tax, and then they slaughter them again. So it goes through cycles. But ultimately, the point is, there can be no infidel. So they'll kill atheists before they kill Christians, but they will still kill everyone until everyone is Islamic, because the idea in Islam is ultimately that paradise or the end of the world cannot come until the whole world has been converted to Islam. Christianity makes no such claim. In fact, in Christianity, Jesus says that we should be happy that the end of the world has not yet come, because God is purposefully waiting patiently for as many people to come to Christ as possible before Christ's return. So it's a mercy. We are not given a charge to convert the entirety of the world through sword and might before the end time can come. We are given a charge to convert as many people as possible to preserve their souls for when the end time comes. Right? So that's a big difference there. And since you have that different reading, moderate Muslims oftentimes find themselves as the victims of the more extreme readings of the Quran. And even in Iran, there is a massive amount of Muslims who pray and wish for the return of the king because of the fundamentalist Islamic state that is Iran currently. So again, I ask the question, what is the world doing? While Christians are being slaughtered by the tens of thousands in Nigeria, in Mozambique, where is the ANC? Why is the ANC dead quiet on this issue? And then you look, for example, at the new religious law that the ANC wishes to pass, where every single church would have to register with the government, and the government would have direct control over what churches preach. And if a church is found to preach something that the government doesn't allow for, the government can actually exact fines or revoke the non-profit stance of the church. Fundamentally, the ANC is starting to get into the fundamental religious extremist business. They don't like Christians. In fact, they hate Christianity, as all good leftists do. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of this. Did you know about the stuff that's happening in Nigeria, or is this news to you? I'd love to read your thoughts. Massive shout out and thank you to all of the patrons as well as the YouTube channel members. To become a patron, hit the link in the description down below or join button right below this video. Your support is always very much appreciated, and it will allow me to do even more, like actually get researchers as well as investigative journalists that I can send out to these places to find the stories at the source rather than having to look through the internet and find the people that did that exact thing. So if you want to support and want to become part of that, links are in the description down below. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.